Hey guys, what's up? It's Autobot Mike 18 here. I've got another movie review for you. Forget it. Guys, that is my impression of a demon voice. Obviously the demon voice in this movie was much better, but that's all I got right now. Anyway, hello there guys, if you couldn't understand what I said. It's Autobot Mike 18 here, back with another movie review. Guys, in this video I am going to be reviewing a horror sequel. Does that sound good? No, it doesn't. But it's actually pretty good. Guys, in this video, I am going to be reviewing The Conjuring 2. That's right, guys. The sequel to The Conjuring. The Conjuring, which came out in 2013, which I actually did review when that movie first came out. I was around on YouTube when The Conjuring was out during the summer. I saw it and reviewed it then. And now, director James Wan, who directed that film, has returned to give us the sequel. He is back in the director's chair for The Conjuring 2, which I think was originally titled The Endfield Experiment, if I'm not mistaken. And now they just dropped that line, and now it's just The Conjuring 2. So, guys, I was definitely looking forward to The Conjuring 2 because I enjoyed the first Conjuring, and because James Wan was back to direct it. I was really surprised he came back to direct it. The only sequel he's ever directed was Insidious Chapter 2. So I was definitely looking forward to the movie, and I'm sorry this review is coming to you guys a little bit later than I intended, because this movie came out June 10th, and I was away that week, so I missed this, and I also missed Warcraft, which I also did just see, and will get a review out to you guys for. But anyway, getting back to The Conjuring 2, let's get into the premise behind the film. Essentially, the movie sets like a couple years, about 6 years after the events of the first Conjuring, and we are once again focusing on paranormal investigator couple Ed and Lorraine Warren, played by Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga. This time they're in the middle of investigating something concerning a paranormal occurrence in Amityville. And in the midst of working with that, and them also wondering, should we keep doing this? Should we take a little break from this maybe? Something freaky is going on all the way over in Endfield, England. A family is being haunted by, your common things that make you go, your common scares that get you in the night. And the family, we have a young mother, husband's not in the picture, and she's in the middle of raising 4 kids, and specifically this demon thing is latching onto her youngest daughter, Janet, played by Madison Wolfe, I want to say her name is. So the Warrens are going to get involved with this new case, and they got to crack it, essentially, guys, and get rid of the demon. And that is the basic premise behind The Conjuring 2. A movie that I was looking forward to for sure, but at the same time, a little skeptical of, because it's a horror sequel. You never know how those are going to turn out. Now, guys, I actually was a big fan of The Conjuring. If you guys haven't seen my review of it, check it out. I enjoyed that movie when it first came out. I think I gave it like a B+ or something. It was definitely one of the better horror films I had seen recently, and it was one of my favorite movies of that summer, actually, when that came out in 2013. And one reason why I loved The Conjuring, and why I love James Wan in general as a director, is that he knows how to give a good scare, and he knows how to do horror very well. I think this is like the one genre he should absolutely stick to doing, because he is really, really good at it. Now, I haven't seen Furious 7, but he had directed Furious 7, and IMDb trivia time. He was offered an insane amount of money to do Fast and Furious 8, but turned it down because he felt that he wanted to go back to horror and wanted to go back and do a sequel to The Conjuring. So, props for you, man, for doing that, because I think any director would have just picked money. But yeah, I love James Wan as a director. I loved Saw. I loved the Insidious movies. The first Insidious is one of my favorite horror films of all time, and is one of those movies that continually will scare the crap out of me upon repeat viewings. I love that movie to death. And Insidious Chapter 2, I thought was okay. I thought it was nowhere near as good as the first. It was a little disappointing. But I really liked The Conjuring. I really dug it. And I believe both movies actually came out the same year. The Conjuring was amazing. I thought it created some really genuine scares in a couple of scenes that really worked. And it was overall just a really great, like, demon exorcist flick. And I was really into it. So now we have The Conjuring 2. And as I said, Insidious Chapter 2 wasn't all that great. So did James Wan do a good job with The Conjuring 2? Yes, I think he really did. I really enjoyed myself this time around, guys, with The Conjuring 2. I had fun. I felt terrified in a few moments. I thought that this overall worked very strongly as a horror sequel, and it's one of the stronger ones that we've had over the years, and that's saying something because we've had some doozies, guys. We've had some really, really bad ones. 9 times out of 10, the one genre that gives us sequels other than comedies that suck is horror, and I don't think this is one of those cases where this movie sucks. I really enjoyed myself in it. I just really enjoyed the new case that these people were working on, and I feel the stakes in it might have even been bigger than the stakes in the first Conjuring, because I think there's this really smart little twist that gets thrown into the movie between the end of the second act and the third act. One of my favorite moments of the entire movie, by the way, and the third act as a whole in general, I thought worked incredibly well, that I totally wasn't expecting. I think was really smart for a horror movie about, paranormal activity and demons and everything and exorcisms. I really thought that was just a really genuine... I was going to mix genuine and genius, and I don't know how... It was a really genius idea, in my opinion. I thought it was really, really clever, and I think that there were elements of this movie that took the overall that formula, the formula of the Warrens investigating this family and staying with them and looking into the family and everything. It took certain elements to, I think, bigger levels than the first Conjuring film did. So I definitely got to give this movie props for doing that. And another thing that this movie did as a sequel that actually really, really surprised me, and I did not think it was going to go down this route, was giving us more screen time and even humanizing the characters of the Warrens even more than it did in the first movie. Because in the first movie, we that movie established who those characters were, how they met, just very briefly, essentially. And we got some time and some scenes with them and their daughter and everything on the side while they were looking into the first case that they had to deal with. The Perrin case was in the first Conjuring. In the second Conjuring, yeah, it's the same two characters. They've come from the same background, but the movie spends a lot of time with like a couple scenes that dealt with how these two specifically met when they were younger, in regards to them telling the characters, like them telling this family that they're now staying with while they're investigating this whole thing. And I thought that those moments really worked, and it really gave them some few human beats. And it all the more made me care for them even more towards the end of the film when all things are going nuts and everything's just exploding with craziness. You don't know, someone could die, you don't know, the stakes are high, and I really felt it. And I was like, I genuinely don't know if one of them is going to make it out of this. And I think the movie just did a phenomenal job of setting that up and giving them more screen time and giving them more background, letting us in to see what their past life was like. The fact that there are these two people who have these abnormal gifts that other people were just like, I don't believe you. And the fact that, they brought together and believed each other out of everybody else who didn't believe them, I think is a really touching story for their relationship. So I really just was reeled into this movie because of their characters alone. And I think Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga kill it as always, as expected, in this movie. They do. Their performances are fantastic, okay? They might even be bigger And I think that they honestly put more into the characters in this movie than they did in the first one. There's a lot of really tender, humanizing moments in this movie that they share with this other family. One involving Patrick Wilson and a guitar that I thought were really sweet moments, and I thought really worked and surprised me for a horror movie. But at the same time, I'm asking myself, wow, where are the scares? Like, where have they gone? Not like it's a bad thing. I'm just like, I'm waiting for them to come back. You know what I mean? At the same time, I'm saying to myself, this is what you need in horror movies. You need to give a crap about these characters. And I absolutely did, even more than I did in the first. And that's definitely mad props I'm giving to The Conjuring 2, for sure. And I think that director James Wan, again, knows exactly what he's doing in terms of thrills and giving us, establishing, a location or a setting incredibly well with his camera shots and everything. Like the first Conjuring, one thing I absolutely loved about the movie was the camera operator. Whoever operated camera did incredible Steadicam work. The really gorgeous pans, I think was all just really well done. It wasn't, all like shaky cam or anything. Same with this. I love how in the beginning in this movie, when we establish the Janet, the young girl, and her whole family. She has two brothers and a sister and her mother. When we show them in the house, the Steadicam literally goes from one room to the other, and it's just so smooth and swift. I was just so into it from that shot alone. And it was like a one take. They did it in a very long take, and I was really into the movie from that point on. I was like, okay, now I'm totally into this. This is a director who is so very careful with his craft and knows exactly what types of shots he wants to set up characters or set up a creepy, spooky house or something like that. And he just pulls it off brilliantly. So mad props to James Wan for, again, doing a great job. And I think he also executed some very, very well done sequences. There's a great sequence with one of the young brothers and a fire truck at night that I thought was excellently done. I thought there was a really interesting scare with Patrick Wilson and this ex-wife when they're down in the basement in one scene. I thought that was incredibly done. There were a few moments that genuinely worked for me, and then there were a few scares that didn't quite work for me. They fell a little flat. I felt the same way with the first Conjuring. That was one of my only problems with this movie, was that there was maybe one or two scares. I either saw it coming or I felt it wasn't as terrifying as I thought that they were going for. And I feel the same way with this movie, but that's reminiscent with a lot of horror movies nowadays. The only one who hasn't done that, in my opinion, was Insidious, which meant that every single scare in that movie worked for me. There were a few that got me in this movie. There were a few that didn't. There were a few that almost got me and were very successful in that fact. But in those that maybe didn't get me, what I did was I tried to play like the psychological card. Like I put my head into the mind of like the young boy character in the movie, one of her young brothers, and I was like, you know what? If I was this young kid, if it was this late at night, I had no idea what was going on, I probably would be scared shitless. I probably would. I'm going to be honest with you. So I think definitely from a psychological standpoint, James Wan scares always work, are always effective from that standpoint. They may not personally affect me, but they may work from that standpoint. They may affect every other audience member. Speaking of audience members, I had this one woman in my theater who was literally like, throughout the entire movie, I'm not even joking, this was her. Apart from when she fell asleep like 5 different times in the movie and heard her snoring in the background, this was her. She was laughing too. That was her throughout the entire movie. I'm kidding you not. She's sitting like 2 rows behind me. What the hell, man? What the hell? And she fell asleep during the movie. Who does that? Who reacts out loud to a horror movie? Why? I don't know. That didn't ruin the movie for me. Anyway, guys, I had to point that out. That was hilarious. The Conjuring 2 has really good performances, excellent camera work. I thought it did an excellent job character building the characters that we loved from the first Conjuring. Our 2 main leads, Ed and Lorraine Warren, I cared about them even more in this movie. I overall felt the stakes and the overall case in this movie was a little bit bigger than the last movie, which definitely worked for the sequel's favor. like I said, the camera work, the pacing for the most part was okay. My only flaws with the movie, as I said, a few scares didn't quite work. The movie does clock in at just over 2 hours, like 2 hours and 13 minutes, which I feel whenever a horror movie or a comedy clock in over 2 hours, that's a little dangerous. I think that horror and comedy almost go together in the fact that they should be very, very quick to the point, and they should end around an hour and 15 minutes or somewhere near there. So I would have cut some off of The Conjuring. It does feel a little long. It's not like it's a bad, like a horrible thing that just takes this movie down, but I would just trim a few things out just to make the movie snappier and quicker. But I think all of like the scenes where the Warrens are interacting with the family, I think we're really strong and really successful in doing that. So as a horror thriller sequel, I think The Conjuring 2 overall works quite well. I would definitely recommend checking it out. Maybe not rush out to see it and pay full price, but I would definitely see it at some point because it's not a bad horror sequel by any means. It's definitely intelligent and knows what it's doing and knows what it wants to be. So that's why I enjoyed The Conjuring 2. In the end, I'm going to give the movie a solid grade of an 8.5 out of 10 or a B. I think that is a sufficient enough grade for it, and I would definitely recommend a viewing of it if you guys get a chance. Guys, if you've already seen The Conjuring 2, let me know what you thought of it down below in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, and as always, thank you guys so much for watching my review. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.